Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kepada mahasiswa magister ya, master student from information system, as well as respectfully to our narasumber ya, Profesor Abdurrahman Ahlan yang telah menyempatkan waktunya ya dan juga valuable time-nya dan juga kesempatannya ya. This kind of opportunity is really valuable for us ya to having you here right now. Untuk acara Profesor Insight yang insya Allah akan kita lakukan sebentar lagi. Oke, sebelum kita masuk ke topik ya pembahasan kita, lebih baik ya kita akan mengadakan perkenalan terlebih dahulu, karena kalau tidak kenal maka tak sayang ya. Insya Allah setelah mengenal Profesor, nanti mahasiswa-mahasiswa yang lain jadi lebih sayang ya kepada Profesor, dan insya Allah ilmunya jadi lebih bermanfaat to ourselves ya, because we focus, we concentrate, we try to listen ya carefully every statement that Professor said to us, and hopefully it can give barakah ya, not only to the audience that stay in here ya or listen in here, but to the other as well in the future insyaallah. Oke, saya akan share screen. Ini mungkin agak lama ya Prof, karena saya coba cari-cari nemunya di akademia. Ini juga wajah Profesor masih ini ya, masih ganteng ya, Masya Allah. Oke, so this is the curriculum vitae ya. Profesor Abdurrahman Ahlan got PhD degree in Cardiff University, Wales, ya, with the thesis ya, doctoral thesis, Managing IT Innovation, the study of IT implementation. Ini termasuk materi yang sekarang lagi populer ya, terutama dalam hal disruptive innovation. Ya. Kemudian magisternya atau masternya di University of Warwick, Coventry, terkait dengan automatic scheduler, and bachelor degree terkait dengan manajemen information system. Oke. Kemudian I've known him when I'm doing research assistant ya in IT division, itu terkait dengan information security awareness. Alhamdulillah that paper almost reach 100 citation, Prof. Ya, I guess left around 10 ya, 10 or 15 ya, 15 citation until it reach 100, and hopefully those paper ya can benefit to the others, because I see there are people, not only us ya, try to enhance to the other concept ya, let's say put it new dimension as well as variable. Okay, right now I guess this is already obsolete ya. Right now Prof. Abdurrahman Ahlan become the Dean of KICT. I guess from last semester, right, Prof?
Since August last year.
Okay, last year. Okay, and then hopefully Professor will run KICT to the degree that maybe same level like I call and the another kuliah ya in IAUM. So it will be known to the others that IAUM not only about international banking as well as law ya, but also information communication technology. Okay, I guess this is around 25 pages, right? So I cannot read to all of you about the certification as well as working experience, yeah. But yeah, you just believe, yeah, that our speaker right now, our keynote speaker right now, is really compatible as well as, yeah, inshallah, insightful in terms of management information, IT gov, and then IT management or about risk, yeah, about investment. Okay, without further ado, I guess we'll give the opportunity to Professor Abdurrahman Ahlan to give his talk. And thank you, Prof, for your coming to this session. And then waktu dan tempat ya, kita persilahkan kepada Profesor Abdurrahman Ahlan untuk menyampaikan informasinya.
Terima kasih Dr. Muhammad. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share a bit of what I know, and hopefully I can share with you something which can be beneficial to you, especially in the area of information system. But for that, just want to let you know that there's a heavy thunderstorm that is ongoing outside the office. So we are hopefully will not disturb the background mix, so that we can have a very comfortable listening and also discussion, inshallah. Okay, the topic that is given to me is on information system project success, which I think is very important for students of the information system. So inshallah, I'll try to share something. I prepared a set of slides. I'm not sure whether that will fulfill the expectation, but inshallah, I'll try to share what I know. Allow me to share my screen. Give me a second, yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yes, okay, Prof.
Okay, alhamdulillah. And also the rain is very heavy outside, so you may be listening to some background noise, but I hope you will not disturb our conversation. And also I hope the weather will not disturb the internet performance, inshallah. So this is the topic that is given to me, which is information system project success factor. As I mentioned earlier, this is an important topic to discuss, especially among students of the information system. So I'll try to discuss with you what what I understand, also what I perceive of this topic. Okay. All right. Part of the title of this talk is about success. So we are talking about information system project success. So success here is an important keyword. Generally when we ask someone what is the meaning of success, an easy answer to that would be success could be something that meet the objective, or meet the expectation. But success is not something which is something easy to be measured. Okay, so it can be very relative, it can be very subjective, and one person can explain differently to other person. Okay, just like, for example, if we ask someone about happiness, so everybody have an understanding about what is happiness and how you experience of feeling happy. But sometimes it is quite difficult to actually measure the level of happiness. Okay, so unless you try to associate happiness with a number of factors or a number of things that represent what people perceive about happiness. For example, like having a lot of money. So sometimes when you have a lot of money, then you think you could be happy, right? Or if, let's say, you have a lot of time to relax, then that can also be part of happiness. So money, time to spend, that could be some of the factors that can represent happiness. And this is what we can call proxy measure. because directly to measure happiness is easy. So the same could be applied to also on the issue of success. So when we talk about information system success, how do we measure success? How do we measure that information system that we develop and able to complete in terms of the project is a successful one? So it can be quite difficult, okay, unless we know what are some of the factors that represent success in terms of information system, right? So that is why I think we need to know something about what are the factors that can become a proxy measure of that phenomenon that we call success, because success is very subjective, it's very relative, and it's difficult to measure. Okay. From the perspective of information systems or information systems project, common assumptions when you talk about a good solution or successful solution is that when we say a system which makes most use of computer is a good solution. Okay. So maybe this could be an assumption of a good solution or a successful solution. Or system which produce the most appropriate documentation is a good solution. Okay, because as students of information systems, we are taught to prepare documentation every time we work on an information systems project. Okay, even in real life, if you are working with a project team to develop an information systems, part of the good practice is that you have to prepare documentations. Okay, so the more documentations you prepare, can you assume that that is good? Okay, a system which is cheapest to run is a good solution. This could be another assumption. Okay, so if the system is good, not too expensive, then we will consider that as a good system. A system which is implemented earliest is a good system. This could be another assumption. Or a system which is most adaptable, okay, is a good solution. So a system which makes best use of techniques and tools available is a good solution. A system that is liked by stakeholders is a good solution, especially users. If the users like it, it could be a good solution. But again, a good solution, a successful solution, this is a very relative measure. So what is good to one person may not be as good to other person. Okay. So because, for example, like if let's say you assume if you use most computer is a good solution, sometimes you have to maintain the computers. Okay, and computers normally will be obsolete over the period of 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, you may need to replace the computers. Okay. Or documentation, sometimes even how beautiful you prepare and how meticulous the effort you take to prepare the documentation, at the end of the day, people may not treat the documentation, even though we assume that with good documentation is a good solution. But some people, once we give the documentation to them, they will just save it somewhere, put it on the shelf, and probably refer to it very little. So it's just there on the shelf collecting dust. So that could be something that commonly happen. Okay, so these are just some assumptions to reflect the fact that sometimes this assumption can be relative. It can be different from one person to another person. And in the case of information system success, okay, before we go into information system project success, the issue of success is something that researchers, especially from the academic perspective, or from the literature perspective, something that authors and researchers have done a long time ago, at least, based on the most popular model or most popular theory produced by William Dillon and also Ephraim McLean, which is more popularly known as Dillon and McLean. They have started to research the issue of information system success way back in 1992. So 1982, if you count until today, it is exactly 30 years ago. It's a long time. And of course, when you imagine about information system, the kind of application that we developed, 30 years ago, and the kind of information system that we develop today, definitely will be very much different in terms of quality, in terms of efficiency. Okay, because 30 years ago, when we talk about information systems, these are issues and questions that will be answered that will be relevant for big organization. But anyway, these are among the distinguished researchers that focus on information system success. And what they did is that this researcher tried to understand what information systems factors, what are the independent variables that are relevant that can be used to measure what is information system success. In their study and in their findings, they found 6 distinct dimensions. Okay, and because their findings are one of the most popular findings, that is why I think until today their work has been cited by so many other researchers, students, academicians. I think this model and this theory has received probably more than 20,000 citations, okay, which is a very big number. Okay, so in their model, they focus on these highly cited factors, including information quality. Okay, so information quality can influence or can lead to improve solutions, and also which can also lead into the overall success of the system. Apart from system quality, information quality is also important. Okay, information quality is, for example, like the system will produce accurate data, and the data can be trusted. The report that the system generates can be dependent on. Okay, it can produce meanings that is intended. Okay, the system is used. Okay, and use is one of the very important factor in information system success. Okay, in 1992 or even in that decade of 1990s, the user computing become one of the most important phenomena when we talk about computing and also information systems development. So because before that, very little that the system developer will approach the user to consult on their opinions. Okay, normally they will just consult selected people to understand about the requirement of the system, and then they produce the system. But later on, they found that users play a very important role. So that is why in the 1990s, the end user computing becomes one of the important phenomena that happens to improve the quality of systems. So we need to understand what the user wants, what the user perceive about the system, what is the expectation, in order to develop a system that the user will like. Okay, so the use and the user satisfaction are very important, especially in the 90s. And other than that, what represents success is the individual impact, because once the user use the system and they become better in terms of their productivity, then they can help to produce better performance for the entire organization. So individual impact and organization impact become one of the measures for information system success. So this is what happened, in the 1990s, right? But later on, they revised the model, and then individual and organization impact, are revised as something called net benefit. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Okay. So this is the how the model look like. Okay. So this is the information system success model produced by Dillon and McLean in 1992. So here you have important dimension, including system quality, information quality, use, user satisfaction, and all these factors will contribute to individual impact, and individual impact will then continue to produce better performance for the organization. So it will create an organization impact because of using that system. Okay. All right. So this is again the how the model look like. But after that, many other researchers continue to research because they want to have better understanding about success. Okay, So other researchers find that they also need to look into task characteristic, okay, user characteristic, more than just what is mentioned in the DeLong and McLean model. They also want to understand if social factors or characteristics have influence towards the success. Okay, and then because most of the time information system development is treated as a project, so project characteristic also is something that researchers look into, okay, in order to understand, how it can impact or how it can improve the quality of the solution, and later it can be considered as the measure of success. And we also look into organization characteristic as well, okay, because organization characteristic is important, okay, because especially today we sometimes talks about learning organization, okay, because organization is like a living entity, okay. What gives life to organization are people who are working in that organization. Just like human being, organization also goes through a maturity level, okay, from infancy into adulthood, and there's a learning curve. So organization characteristic also is important because organization, if it doesn't learn, then organization will commit a lot of mistakes, and mistakes can reduce the quality of the result. Okay, so organization characteristic is also important. So these are other factors that other researchers continue to study apart from what DeLong and McLean have produced. Okay. So because of the work of others, the two authors, DeLong and McLean, find that they may have to revisit their model again, okay, to understand whether their model is still relevant, or after 10 years, they need to revise the model. So they look into the findings of other researchers and other academicians, and they find that there are many other factors that are relevant to describe what is information system success. Okay, and these factors include, for example, enjoyment. Okay, so which probably was not addressed in the earlier model. The issue of trust. Okay, because if we don't trust the system, then we tend not to use the system. Okay, I did my research for my PhD in banking. How banks leverage on technology, because as you know today, banks exist and can only continue to do business because of technology. And it's very difficult to imagine that today we conduct or we run a bank without using technology. But when we talk about this issue in the 1990s, some banks started to use technology, but not many people trust that technology. Okay, I remember one bank, in Malaysia. This bank doesn't exist anymore, but it was there in 1990s when the bank started to use what we call kiosk banking. Okay, we don't have internet banking in the 1990s, but we have ATM machines, okay, auto teller machines. So quite a number of banks have already started, to use auto teller machines as part of their service. But there was this one particular bank that used kiosk banking more than just ATM, because ATM machine, in the 90s, they were only used to withdraw money. Okay, but this particular bank wants to use, machines to also deposit money. Okay, but today, all ATM machines, we can do many things with an ATM machines. Okay, we can withdraw money, we can deposit money, we can, do bank transfers, many other types of services we can do today with, what ATM machines that we have today. But in the 90s, even if you put money in the machines, not many people wanted to try it, because they fear that the money that they put in the machine, for some reason, either will be lost or the machines will not calculate the money properly. So not it. They fear something will happen with the money, because they don't trust the machines. So they prefer to go to the bank and meet the bank counter, the person, the cashier at the bank counter, and then give the money for the counter, for the cashier to record the deposit and put it in their passbook. Okay, so that was what happened before. So enjoyment, trust, user expectation, extrinsic motivation. Okay, what can motivate the user to believe in the system, to try to use the system, and to like the system. Okay, so because these are issues that were important in the 90s. The IT infrastructure, task compatibility, task difficulty, attitude towards technology, organization role, user involvement, relationship with developers, domain expert knowledge, management support, management process, organizational competence. Okay, these are all issues that Deloitte says we need to look into, and that is why they revisit the model that they produced in 1992. Okay, and this is how they have improved and revised the model. Okay, so this is the updated information system model by Dillon and McLean, but this one was released, this one was actually validated and produced in 2002 or 2003. Okay, so some of the dimensions were the same. For example, like system quality is the same, information quality is the same. But they added more to this model, which includes service quality. Okay, so it is not enough to just have a good system and also a system that can produce accurate information in terms of the quality of the information. But while using the system, sometimes there are problems. So you need, the support services to provide you with the support in case something happens. Okay. So if the support quality is not there, then this probably will not be counted as the system being successful, or maybe considered as a good solution. The important thing that they revise in this model is on the issue of use. Okay, so the system usage was revised, and they find that usage cannot be just treated as when the individual or the user use the system, because there is a process that happens before the user use the system. So that is why in explaining what use, they also look into the intention to use. Okay, and because these two has important bearings on the user satisfaction, and the interaction between the two contributes to the net benefit. So instead of just focusing on the individual impact or the organization impact, they look at it from a more broader meaning, and the dependent variable is changed into net benefits. Okay, so net benefits can open up to other factors in terms of the proxy measurements. So this is to allow for more factors to be considered when we talk about benefits rather than just on the impact. Okay, so in terms of the difference, 10 years, 1992 and 2003, this is how the model of information systems success have evolved. Okay. All right, let's look closely into the issue of usage or use. Okay, so in 1992, the dimension was use, or in some model they put it in system usage, but in 2003, intention is also put together to explain about use, right? And intention is something that can be explained from the earlier theories. Okay, so for example, like the theory of technology acceptance model, okay, which was produced by Davies in 1989, and the intention can also be explained through the theory of reason action in 1980 by Asgen, and then Asgen also revised this theory, and it changed into what is termed as theory of planned behavior. So this is something that can help to explain about intention. So if you want to understand more about this, then use must start from intention. Okay, from intention it changed into actual use, and once somebody has used the system, then you will decide whether you want to continue or just use it for one time. It depends. Okay. So if they use the system and they like to use, and then they will continue to use. Okay. So so this is an important measure for use in terms of information system success. Right. So on the issue of intention, you'll find that there are other researchers, like for example Taylor and Todd in 1995 that try to decompose the theory of planned behavior. And then they say, intention, future intention is influenced by the perceived behavioral control, the attitude, the subjective norm. Okay, so this again address some of the dimensions that were mentioned earlier, for example, like this, the social characteristic. Okay, so because intention can also be influenced by peer, by friends, by working colleagues. Okay, or sometimes because your superior wants you to use the system, so the superior influence the worker to use the system. Okay, for attitude, for example, whether that is compatible with the attitude, what is whether the system has the perceived usefulness, and also it's easy enough to use. Okay, and then other behavioral control include self-efficacy, resource facilitating conditions, technology facilitating condition, and some of these are part of what we call the infrastructure and technology characteristics. Okay, so all of these has bearings on the intention. Okay, so that was what was understood in 1995 in relation to information system success. Okay. Okay, so I hope that has given you some background about information system success. But let's see how this influence project, because as I mentioned earlier, information system development is normally treated as a project. Okay, so it's something you don't normally volunteer to develop. Okay, and then just give it to other people. But for most cases, information system, because it involves money, it involves resources. So that is why it is an organization undertaking, and an organization normally will, treat this as a project. So it's a project. If you go to look for the definition, this is probably the most common definition you'll find. A project is any undertaking carried out individually or collaboratively. In most cases, it's a teamwork, and possibly involving research or design that is carefully planned to achieve a particular aim. Okay, and I think you must have been, thought about what are the triple constraint in projects. I'm sure you're familiar with this. So in projects, normally these are the things that determine the project. Number one is the scope. Okay. Number two is the time, and number three is the money. So these are the important constraints of projects. And I think if you have attended the project management class, I think this will be taught to you as the project triple constraints. Okay. And the system development itself, go through certain phases. Just like when you manage the project, normally you will manage according to the phases of the project. But the development process also is a process on its own. Okay. So that is why when you are taught, about information systems development project, and I think the textbook will address, the system development life cycle. Okay, from initiation or from conception until implementation until production. Okay, so I don't intend to focus too much on that, but I hope you understand what I mean. Okay, and in information systems project, there are certain processes, that will happen, especially according to the phases of the project. So because an information system development normally don't just happen like that. For example, like it's not random. It is not like you wake up in the morning and suddenly you decide to conduct, or to develop a system. Okay, it is not like that. So there is a proper initiating process. okay, which is a process performed to define a new project, a new phase of an project by obtaining authorization to start the project or, to kick off the project. So there is something that you must do first before you can even start with the system development. Okay, so which means in an organization, you cannot simply start the project. You must get proper permission from the management. You will try to get the support of the management. There must be some reason for why you want to develop the system for the use of the organization, and of course, there must be some problems that you are facing in the organization, and you think that the system or the new technology or the new system will be able to solve that problem. But of course, you cannot just start the project, but you have to properly initiate the project. And initiating, once you're given the green light, then you have to do the proper planning. Okay, so planning is part of the process group in project management, and this is also true in system development project. And once you have the planning laid out, then you execute, you actually implement the project. Okay, so execution is an important phase of the project. Okay, and this is where you actually develop the system. Okay, so this is when the construction part in the system development life cycle coincide with the execution process group in the project management. And once you have done that, you have to monitor and control, okay, because you need to measure whether you're on the right track, or you need to review, okay, unless in case you do something wrong, then you have to correct it, okay. And finally, once you reach the completion of the construction, you close the project. And closing is where you have to deal with the project stakeholder, the information system or the system stakeholder, to make sure they agree that you have completed the project, and then you hand over the system to them. Okay, so these are the things that happen. But in terms of the knowledge areas, I think again, this is something that you are familiar if you have attended the project management class. Okay, there's something called project management body of knowledge. Okay, and in this, the body of knowledge has divided the areas into 9 or sometimes 10 areas. Okay, starting from project integration, scope, project scheduling, project cost management, quality management, resource management, communication management, risk management, procurement management, as well as stakeholder engagement. Okay, so again, when we talk about the final outcome of an information system, there are also certain things that may influence the quality or the success of the system. Okay, so from the perspective of projects, these are areas that you need to also look. Okay, so all the related factors that concerns these knowledge areas have to also be considered in order to really come up with a good system, a good solution that you can consider that your information system is a successful one. Okay. And in trying to integrate, information system success and information system project success, okay, they are, academics and researchers who have attempted to combine everything and put into a framework. Okay, so from this framework, and this is called a coherent framework that combines the ICT project dimension with the success perception of the stakeholders. Okay, so again, some of the success perceptions were drawn from the information system success. Okay, so if you look at this framework, there are several dimensions, including environmental dimension, directional dimension, system dimension, management dimension, and also stakeholder dimensions. Okay, and this is mapped across all other factors. Okay, that used to be the common, issues and dimension produced from findings of other research, and they are put here together, combined into an integrated perspective. Okay, so So in other words, if you want to talk about information system project success, actually there are so many dimensions and there's so many factors that we need to look into. Okay, so some of them are already divided. For example, like if you talk about environmental dimensions, you need to look into the project level, the deliverable level, business level, and the context level. Some of these can be combined into what we call the internal environment and also the external environment. Okay. Directional dimension, this is more of the strategic dimension. Okay. Whether it is short term, long term. Okay. Whether this concerns technical issues or operational issues, right? So I think you can take time to look into this. Okay. The management dimension, for example, on how you manage the project, how you manage the system phases, the development phases, from conception to planning to production to handover, utilization, and close down. So close down means the closure of the project, where you hand over, the system, the complete product to the users. Okay, and also to another dimension is the stakeholder dimension. Here, this may include the suppliers, the key IT users, the consultants, the project team members, the end users, the business users, the project managers, and the top manager users. Okay, so this is one of the terms that try to comprehensively look into all these factors and dimensions. Okay, so that we can have a better idea of what are the factors that really influence the information system project success. Okay. And even in 1992, sorry, in 2022, okay, so I just, before this presentation, I browsed, some of the latest work on the issue of success in project. And you'll find that even in 2022, which is this year, the same, factors and dimensions were being studied, including cost, budget, schedule, client, user satisfaction, quality, project team members, competence, effectiveness, project manager, team leaders. So the one that I have highlighted. So they are all the critical success factors for project success. Okay. So these factors and dimension remain to be relevant even at the current time. Okay. So organization is one of the important dimension when you talk about the dimension that can contribute to success. In project management, this can also be perceived from the perspective of the environment. Okay, because the organization setting provides an environment to the project. Okay, so the internal environment as well as the external environment. And as I mentioned to you earlier, organization is like human being. Organization goes through a maturity process. Okay, so organization, can also develop knowledge. So that is why today we come across knowledge management, because organization needs to manage knowledge. Okay. So if the organization is of lower maturity, then the environment in which the players work, okay, may not be very conducive to produce a good system or a good project. Okay, so that is why in system development, sometimes the client wants to know where does the maturity level of the system developer team or company. So if let's say you work in a software house, okay, that develop systems for your clients, some clients will not hire you or will not select you if they find that you are rated low in the maturity stage. Okay, I think you probably have been taught about CMMI, capability maturity model, because this is one of the way to measure the level of maturity of an organization. Okay, but what is maturity stages? It's something like this. Okay, so if an organization is low in the stage, then they are struggling with definition on a lot of things. Okay, so in other words, their definition is not stable. Sometimes they define things like this, and at other times they may define things differently. Okay, so they are struggling on just the issue of definition, because if your definition is not the same, then your understanding about an issue will not be the same. And because of that, when you work on something, what you produce will be different at different times. So in other words, the result may not be repeatable. Okay, so if your organization has resolved in terms of what is the common understanding and definition of things in the organization, then what you do normally will be more repeatable in terms of the result. But in other words, the result of something that you do will be more predictable. So if you are on, every time you do something, you can repeat the same level of achievements, then you have reached level 2. Okay, so level 1 is struggling on definition. Level 2 is struggling on trying to repeat the same result. But if, let's say, you are always producing something which is not consistent, then you are not actually achieved level 2 yet. As you go higher, then the focus will be different. So from define to repeatable to manage to optimize, and the highest level will be dynamic. So these are the different level of maturity, and these have bearings on the information system project success. Okay, so if, let's say, your organization is very experienced, everyone understand their roles, then the team work can be very more effective, and then everyone can produce something that will be very highly predictable. But if, let's say, you hire a company which is not very mature, then you can't even tell whether the company will be able to meet your expectation. So again, if you remember, at the beginning of our discussion, what is the meaning of success? Success can be meeting the objective or meeting the expectation. So it is very important that not only the developer team should be able to produce something that we want and what we expect, but also they can even advise us what else have we not considered. Okay, so if they're able to do that, then actually they have achieved a high level in the maturity stage. Okay, and talking about success and solution, I would normally advocate these values, which I call e-management principles. Okay, so if I in my lectures, in my supervision of student projects, I would tell them, you try to incorporate this value in your project, because with this value, it can help to improve the quality of the system. And when you have a quality system, then indirectly you will also improve your level of success. Number one, improve the automation. Okay, and just address automation, but also consider integration, because there are so many systems today where we still have problem with integration. So certain data cannot be shared, certain data needs to be port and then download and upload again, for example. So see if there is any opportunity for integration, because integration can improve the quality of the system. Today, we live in an era where it is not enough to just develop system that can produce reports. Okay, so you want the system to also incorporate intelligence. So that's why today we have artificial intelligence, we have machine learning. Okay, so we develop system that can help organization to do analytics and suggest, quality course of actions or quality decisions. Okay, because normally when you develop systems, produce report, the report will be interpreted or read by the management of an organization, and then based on that, they will make decisions. But today, it is possible for us to develop systems where the system itself can actually suggest, certain decisions to be taken. Okay, so in other words, if you can embed intelligence in the system, in the systems that you develop, you should do so. Okay. Another one is on lean. If you're not sure what lean means means something that is optimized. So if you're talking about resources, in the earlier slide, we mentioned about resources, because project normally will require resources. Okay, human, the team player will be part of the human resource. Okay, money that you put, because you need to buy the technology, you need to buy, or subscribe certain services. Money will be part of the financial resources, and time also can be considered as resources. So in lean, is that you make sure you don't waste on your human resource, you don't waste on your financial resource, and you don't waste on other resources as well. So if you can do this, then you have achieved the lean quality. Okay, so lean is an English word that describes about meat to daging. Okay, so if the meat is full of fat, then the meat is not lean meat. Okay, so if you eat meat with a lot of fat, maybe it's also not healthy for you. Okay, so because if you buy meat, cheap meats from the market, you bring home, most of the time you have to, scrap the meat, cut off the fat, and you take the good one. So in other words, there will be something that will be wasted even though you have bought it from the market. So, but if let's say you have bought lean meat without fat, you can use 100% of the meat without having to throw away the fat. And another important principle or value is on dynamics. Okay, because this is about adaptability of the system. Okay, because today the world is very dynamic. You don't want a situation where you take, let's say, 1 year, to complete an information systems project, and by the end of the 1 year, the system that you develop become obsolete, because what you started is no longer relevant after 1 year. Okay, so this is also not good. So if let's say your system is not dynamic, then whatever you produce will have to be rebuilt, or maybe you have to start from scratch all over again. Okay, and it may take certain period of time to complete. So it's going to be a lot of waste in terms of resources and time. But if you have built your system based on dynamics, based on the methodology that is agile, based on the requirement determination that is very flexible, then you can always adapt your system. So, as soon as something change in the environment, as soon as something change, maybe the requirement change, you can always quickly change the way you do things, and then you adapt to those changes. Okay, so with this kind of value or this kind of principle, what you do is that you can give longer life to the system that you have produced, right? So in other words, the system will not quickly become obsolete, but you can always change, upgrade, customize, improve on it, so that you can give longer life to the systems, okay, or longer life to the technology that you have developed. All right, and I think other than that, we should probably broaden our perspective about success, not just what we draw from the academic literatures, okay, because most of the things that I've discussed earlier are coming from the literature, but there are sometimes other perspectives that we or sometimes we don't give enough attention. Okay, for example, like the concept of success as Muslim, in Islam, it is more than just what we understood from the literature. Okay, the success in Islam is about al-falah. Al-falah, And this is not just a success, in this world, but also success in the hereafter. Okay, so when we have this kind of concept, is it possible for us to develop a system which does not focus only the problem in this world, but also can be something that is continuous for us, even we can benefit after we die, for example. Okay, and in my university, International Islamic University, which Dr. Abdurrahman is one of the alumni, this is something that we recently adopted, and what we call the Sejahtera framework. Okay, and we want our programs, our students, our curriculum to address the elements of the Sejahtera framework, and we hope that with this it is not just for the benefits of the university, but also the benefits of the society and also the benefits of humanity at large. Okay, so in this framework, there are several layers of dimensions. Number one is the Maqasid al-Sharia, okay, which focus on the 5 human elements of existence. And because we think that it is very important for humans to have this in order for them to survive and in order for them to be have a good quality life in this world. Okay, so I'm sure some of you know what is Maqasid al-Sharia. So I think in Islam, it is important for us to preserve our faith, our iman. Okay, so when we develop something, it is not supposed to destroy our iman. Okay, but unfortunately, we find that there are many systems and many applications, especially in social media, for example, that actually degrades or destroy this element. Okay. For example, like if you use social media too much, you can actually you can lose your focus. Sometimes you can also affect your iman. Okay, because of the kind of contents that you may access from these resources and from the internet. So preservation of iman, preservation of life. Okay. For example, like if you develop something, how can you make sure that it promotes quality living rather than aggression, for example? Okay, because we can see that sometimes when our young users of the gadgets, they become addicted to the gadgets. Sometimes they can become aggressive if we disturb them. Okay, so think of this when you talk, when you develop systems, and whether some of these values are preserved. The value of iman, the value of life. Okay, the value of family ties. Offspring. Okay, value of wealth, assets. Okay, because sometimes people use the system, but because of the bad way of how the system is being developed, they can lose their wealth, or maybe for example, like they are involved in online gaming, for example, so they can lose a lot of money, right? And that can reduce the quality of life because of the loss of their wealth and the assets, right? These are the kind of things that must be preserved, and we have these principles and value which is enshrined in our religion. Okay, so try to see whether this can also be factored in when we develop systems, so that it can improve, the quality of success of the system. Then the vision and the mission of the organization, the learning pillars. Okay, so this is something that the United Nations propagates. The learning pillars: learning to know, learning to become, learning to be, learning to live together, because this is very important. So earlier we mentioned about learning organization. So it is important that the issue of learning be considered in information system as well. Okay, So because sometimes there are new tools and techniques that is available, but we don't want our programmers, for example, to just use the old technique. Okay, so we need to allow them to learn the new techniques, especially with a lot of component-based development, a lot with agile development. Okay, programming frameworks that are available. Okay, so rather than learning things from scratch and trying to develop things from scratch, actually we can use all these tools to deliver the systems more quickly, okay, and more efficiently, and also cost effective. So we must provide the learning opportunity for our team, the learning environment for the organization and for the entire environment of the project. Okay, formal structures and also the informal structures. So this also can be elements of the maturity stages. And in part of the Sejahtera framework is something called BR, BR Salehah. So maybe as Muslims, this is also a terminology that some of you are familiar. Okay, but this is talking about the vibes, the nuance, the environment, okay, the ambience. Okay, so if the environment is good, then people will be more motivated to do good as well. So in information system project also, can we consider this as part of what we should factor in when we develop the projects? Holistics in terms of the balanced individual, okay, especially in the projecting and also in the organization and the stakeholders. And part of this Sejahtera framework that our university advocate is something called Khayal. Knowing the fact that we are here in this world, functioning as a Khalifah. Okay, so Allah has created us as Khalifah of this earth. But of course, we see today there are a lot of distractions because people are not, carrying out their responsibility as Khalifah. So sometimes, you do things which is for you, but it's, it affects others. Okay. So especially when you talk about organization, always maximizing profits, they use systems, they use, technology for their organization benefit. But sometimes it may have effect on the society at large. Amanah, okay, which is another important value. Iqra means Iqra comes from the Surah Iqra, from the Quran, but what it means is knowledge. Okay, the importance of knowledge, that you always have to keep pace with the knowledge and keep abreast with the technology, so that whatever you do will improve the quality of the outcome of the output. And finally, Rahmatan lil Alamin, in English we call it mercy to all, not only for other human beings, but also to the environment, to the animals, to the trees, because these are all very important. And today we find that there are many new technologies, are used at the expense of, all these elements that the planet needs to preserve and sustain in order to survive. Because otherwise, we have problem with the climate change, we have problem with, the greenhouse effect, we have problems with, carbon dioxide, we have problems with the increasing temperature of the globe. Okay, so these are all issues that we need to address. So I think when we talk about success, it is not enough to just explore what are the factors that the literature have cited, but we should also broaden the perspective of success. I think that is what I have to share with you. But I'm not sure whether you understand what is the meaning of Sejahtera. Okay, Sejahtera is a Malay word, but I'm sure it has an equivalent in Indonesian language. So I've done a quick search on the internet, and this is what I found. Okay, I found that Sejahtera in Indonesia means, makmur, jaya, kaya, subur, beruntung, jaya, aman, selamat, sentosa. So these are the common meanings, which is also similar to what is meant in the Malaysian language. Okay, so Sejahtera can also be a dimension probably in information systems project success. Okay, so not just on organization impact or net benefit, but could also be term as sejahtera. Okay, so maybe sejahtera can be an important dimension when we talk about success. I think that is all I have, for my discourse on this topic. I hope it has benefited you in some ways. But my apology if it does not add to your knowledge, okay? Because some parts you probably have known it, or maybe you find it's not very relevant to your expectation. So, but I hope whatever I present will be will have added to some meaning in terms of understanding information systems project success. I think that's all I have. Thank you very much. Can I pass this back to Dr. Muhammad?
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Professor, for your speech as well as give us insight, yeah, especially the last statement, yeah, regarding how we combine or how we try to see from the other's perspective, because Western, they have the culture. It's not necessary for us to implement or adopt everything that they said, yeah. We at least try to filter or check, yeah, based on our culture, because as we can see right now, the implementation, the adoption based on their theory somehow also give the fail, yeah. I guess we can list down, yeah, every, let's say, like in enterprise architecture, yeah, the TOGAF, yeah, the COBIT, ITIL, many other framework, many other standard that in their culture, in their pattern, work pattern, it is success. But when we try to implement to our culture and our project, somehow it failed. I remember as well when I become your research assistant, we try to explore the concept of religiosity, yeah, in our framework and our model. When we put religious indicators as well as at the time, I guess, intention to use, we try to elaborate with intention to comply. Yeah, even though it is quite similar, but somehow the degree, yeah, the magnitude is quite different. And yeah, interestingly, those kind of variable that somehow give the significant result, yeah. It is like we believe to God, yeah, we believe to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, and that kind of belief that enhance our performance, yeah, give motivation to us to contribute, etc., etc. And I guess we as the Indonesian and Malaysian, I guess, yeah, we have this kind of collectivism culture, yeah, while they somehow individualistic. It is another difference, another nature that we need to elaborate, or we try to consider, yeah, before we make our model. Okay, thank you so much, Professor. Yeah, it's really nice to have you here. I guess for the others, ada yang mau bertanya? Silahkan. Ya, at least try to speak in English, ya. Similar like me. Ya, saya juga punya kesulitan nih sekarang, ya, untuk ngomong dalam bahasa Inggris, ya. Karena bahasa sehari-hari kita ini, ya, bahasa Indonesia. Ada yang mau bertanya? Silahkan. Okay, Prof, what do you think about this information success factor? I guess at the first it become the reference, yeah, for the academician, but in the 2003, yeah, it is the last time when they try to deliver, or when they try to improve, yeah, their theory. But somehow right now, I guess the updates is somehow missing, somehow lost, while I see the other try to see success from the perspective in the sectoral, let's say like the theory of disruptive innovation somehow got flourished, the concept of acceptance somehow got flourished as well, the concept of readiness, while we can say it is another aspect, another idea that we can say success, so people right now really eager, really enjoy to go into the deep rather than try to come out with the in general theory, like information success factor, but they just focus to what is it the success for marketing, what is it the success for implementation, what is it, etc., etc. So is it okay for us to follow the trend? I guess it is kind of what we call it, direction, is it okay for us to go to the specific theory, we try to build specific theory, or we try to come out with the kind of three musketeer theory, one for all, one for all for one. What is it, Prof? Can you give us some insight or the direction of research that we can go?
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think there are a lot of studies that refer to the original model of information system success. Even after 30 years, people are still referring to that model. But of course, many of them, they break it down and try to address some specific issues within certain industry or certain sectors. So sometimes people apply this in education, some people apply this in marketing and business. So they continue, but they are not adding something that is big to the to the knowledge. So they just test the model with a bit of modification in different contexts, and so in other words, the value of the study or the findings is not very big. Okay, but of course, if we want to address and take lead, okay, then you should be willing to to study and look at things from a different perspective. Okay, for example, like on the issue of motivation, I think most of the literature are focusing more on the Western perspective. Okay, so motivation is very much a Western perspective. So what are the intrinsic and the extrinsic factors that can influence motivation? So if let's say you are given a monetary incentive, maybe you will act upon it. Okay, but again, like I mentioned about happiness, happiness can be very subjective. Even though the large majority of people say that if you have a lot of money, then you'll be happy. But you can find that some people may be happy, but they are not rich. Okay, so they live with only little money, but happiness comes because they feel that they are enough. Okay, and you may have a situation where someone is very rich, has a lot of things, but he still not feel enough, and because of that he's not happy. Okay, so these are the kind of assumptions that you need to challenge in order for you to bring new perspective. Okay, so I'm just using happiness as an example, but information system also the same. When you talk about information system, normally you assume that the infrastructure should be there, the technology should be there, the technology know-how should be there. But you find that in certain regions, certain culture, people use technology, even though they are lacking in terms of all those facilities and supports. For example, like when you talk about the war zone conflict zone. So because we have, countries which are at war. Okay. So can information system success factors in the literature work in that kind of environment? Okay, so these are probably areas where researcher needs to do research. Okay, so if you talk about education, use of technology in education, of course, you can easily find factors, in an environment where the technology is very conducive. Okay, because the country is stable, the political situation is stable, the infrastructure is there. Then whatever you do will be highly predictable. But there may be situation in conflict zone countries where access to technology is very limited, infrastructure support, internet access is very limited, but still you find that people are motivated to use technology in whatever form they have. Maybe it's not very sophisticated, but they will use even simple technology to achieve so many things. Okay, so again, these are probably areas which have not been researched enough. Okay, so culture, belief systems. So I think if you want to make a breakthrough and not just follow whatever other people have done, maybe you should be motivated to undertake this kind of research and try to come up with a theory that explains things from a different perspective. I hope I've answered your question. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Yeah, at least it's depend on the demand or the needs, I guess. Yeah, we need to see from the perspective of practical, I guess, practical implication. Okay, I guess there are our student, that want to talk as well. Yeah, we need to do some warm up, I guess, Professor. Yeah, so they can come back to their self. Okay, Widya, I guess I see raise hand. You can talk directly to Professor. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Regarding to theory for today, there are so many things we need to consider for the ICE project. And in there, I want to ask here, Prof, how does the corporate data model for support success factor? And how do we start apart from assessing maturity level of the company or other?
Can you help me to understand the question again? Sorry, there's some part which I didn't hear clearly.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. How does the corporate data model for support the IS success factor? How do we start for this assessing maturity level of the company or other?
You're asking about the corporate data model, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So normally when we talk about maturity, there are two parts. Okay, one part is on the client, okay, and the other is the supplier. Okay, so normally when we talk about the corporation may have its own data model, but it depends on the project whether it is done in-house or it is done by an external supplier, okay, or vendor. Okay, so there are two different levels of maturity there. So if let's say the corporation has a very good data model, okay, then they would either able to do their project in-house because they have the capability, or if let's say they want to work with a vendor, then the vendor must be also a vendor that has achieved a high level maturity. Because otherwise the vendor may not be able to meet the expectation of the client. Or if the client has a high level of maturity, then it doesn't matter whether if the vendor has the high level of maturity, then it doesn't matter whether the client is of the low maturity or the same level of maturity with the vendor. Okay, because the vendor will be able to advise what needs to be done in order to improve the problem. Okay. Data model normally means the data in the organization is of good quality, easy to be accessed, easy to be retrieved, and easy to be shared. So solution can be easily developed in that environment. But if, let's say, the corporation has not have the data model, then there will be a lot of duplications. There will be a lot of inaccuracy in the data. Before something meaningful can be done, a lot of cleaning should be done on the data, perhaps. Okay, reorganization of the data, because data are sitting in various places, and you don't know which version is should be worked on, for example. So the corporation needs to do a lot of things. Okay, but a high majority vendor will be able to advise the client what needs to be done first before they embark on the project. I'm not sure whether I have answered the question, but I hope if it is cannot answer all, it can partially answer some of your query, inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I think it's difficult for me to how to implement it, yeah, because it's a strategy level strategy. Okay, thank you, sir.
Will not be a straightforward answer, but it depends on the scenario.
Yes, right.
Okay, I guess we give the chance to Ahmad Adli. Yeah, you can ask directly to Professor. Yeah, don't be shy. Okay, go ahead, Ahmad Adli.
Okay. Hello, Prof. My name is Adli. I'm from Information System Magister at Telkom University. I want to ask about the people factor to create an information system project. How impactful the people? Because we know to create an information system project, we have some factor, and especially for the people, I want to know, in your opinion, how people becoming very impactful in this successful project information system.
Yeah, thank you for that question. You raise a very important point, and I'm not sure whether I can fully answer your question, but I will try. But of course, one of the most important factor and the most critical in any project is the quality of people involved in the project, whether they are part of the project team or they are part of the stakeholder who have interest in the result of the project. So it is very important to have quality people, and of course, this is not something that is easy to achieve unless they have collected the experience and they know how to behave in order to reduce the conflict. Because one of the most important issue with project is the issue of communication and conflict. Okay. So you have your project manager, you have your system analyst, you have your programmers. Okay, very important that this team works in a very conducive environment. Their communication is effective, and that what is understood by one person is also the same understanding by the others. Because if there is different expectation, different understanding, it can easily be turned into miscommunication, and miscommunication can easily create conflict. And it is conflict that most of the time that will reduce, the effectiveness of the project and the way the project is being managed. So your question on how impactful is people factor in making the success of the project, very, very important, is very, very critical. If there is good teamwork and effective communication, sometimes you don't have to even you don't have even to speak much. Okay, Sometimes you can even use gesture, to communicate, because your colleagues and your project team members so well, that they don't have to even say everything in detail in order to express what they. But sometimes they just give you some gesture, and it's enough for you to understand what they mean. Okay, compared to if, let's say, you are in a highly confrontational or maybe a conflict environment. Sometimes you try to explain one thing and the other person is not willing to listen. Okay, so in this, it's very destructive to project. So I think the communication and the conflicts and the conflict resolution is one of the most important factors that needs to be considered when we talk about the quality of people in projects.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
You're welcome.
Can you give to us some tips to solve if we got trouble because that people, for example, people don't understand what we want, people don't understand about the technology, or people don't understand about the process of business. So can you have a tip or trick to solve that problem? Maybe you can share it to us.
Yeah, it is something that you have to experience yourself and try to improve your quality. But I think for system developers, okay, sometimes what they need to do is that they have to learn the knowledge of their client. So in other words, for example, like you are the system developer, or maybe you work with a company that develops system for your client. Sometimes you have to make effort to understand your client, understand their environment, understand their requirement, which means even though you are a technologist or information systems analyst, but in projects, sometimes you have to be a business person. Sometimes you have to be an educationalist, depending on the settings and on the context of the project that you're working on. So if your client is a business person, sometimes you have to take effort to learn about business so that you can speak in the language of the business person rather than speak in the language of a technology. Okay, because sometimes the business person don't understand technological jargons. So because of that, they become offended, and it's difficult to communicate with them. So as system developers, sometimes we have to do more, in order for us to be effective in our role. So so in other words, one of the tips is for us to make effort to learn the environment of the client. Okay, so if your client is in education sector, for example, you have to try to make effort to understand about education, how it is done, the role of teachers, for example, so that it's easier for you to advise and also make proposal, because otherwise you say one thing, they don't understand you, and then they try to speak in their own using their jargon, and you don't understand them. So this is not going to help solve the problem.
Okay,
But
thank you,
I
Prof.
know that, yeah, there are many people, because they do this seriously, they are able to become very effective consultants. Okay, so it doesn't matter where they work. They can work in oil and gas. They can work in the health sector. They can work in education sector. They can work in financial sector. And able to communicate and advise, the business people in that sector to accept the suggestion and the proposal that they give. So this is probably one of the skills that you need to pick up. It's not easy because we are trained, as information systems, but we have to make our own effort to understand also about, other disciplines. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Thanks for your very insightful tips. I hope we can move better to complete and success more project, another project in the future. Thank you, Prof.
Welcome.
Okay, I guess this is the last question, yeah, from Bambang. Okay, you can go ahead, ask directly to Professor.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, hello, Prof. I think some of the answer already been given from you. But actually, I'd like to ask about the definition of the service quality and also the scope from it, since it's like a surprise for me that service quality is a variable to define if the information system is a success or not, right? Since when I experienced little in a project, sometimes we need to like act as a business consultant, so the user will know the process from the from the system process, or the system model, not just like I want something, but you need to know how to how the process can be to get your goal, right? So the question is the scope of it, since it's like something really subjective and also really broad. That's all, I think. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, I'll try to answer your question, perhaps based on my own experience, because I think the issue of service quality is, is something which is important after the completion of the project, which means after you have completed the system, you hand over to the client, okay, and then the client start to use it. So this is where service becomes important, because service quality normally is something that is required while the users are using the system. Okay, so it is not very critical during the development, but it is very critical during the production. So once you have completed the project, you move from the development phase to the production phase after you have given the system for the user to use. Because we cannot expect that the system will be 100% perfect. Okay, so after the user have used it, sometimes they will feedback with some complaints, with some reports, okay, with some feedback, and this is where the service quality, especially in terms of continuously supporting the user and try to resolve the problems that they face, becomes very critical. Because otherwise, if they don't receive good support when they complain something, when they when they do not know something, or when they're confused of something, okay, or when the result is not what they expect, then when they give feedback, nobody address their feedback or respond to their complaints. This is where the user satisfaction will be reduced. Okay, so in the information system model, user satisfaction, service quality, has important level of interactions. And in terms of how we can improve that, I think there are many frameworks and standards of practice that are available out there. I think one of the common one that many organizations adopt is something called ITIL, information technology. I'm not sure what is IT infrastructure library, ITIL. Okay, which is an important standard that many organizations adopt. And normally the way this is implemented in an organization is in a form of support desk or maybe service desk. Okay, so if something happens, then someone will make complaints, and they don't just complain by saying it, or maybe just by making a phone call, but they record the complaint using the service desk system, so that a ticket will be issued. Okay, so the ticket will be issued, and there must be a service level agreement that respond to the ticket has already been issued. So if let's say a problem is just a simple one, then the SLA can be within 1 hour. So within that 1 hour, then that problem should be solved, depending on the category of the ticket. Some problems can be very complicated, okay, and it cannot be resolved in 1 hour or maybe 1 day. It may require maybe 24 hours or maybe 48 hours. Then this problem needs to be addressed within that 48 hours or within the service level agreement that has been specified according to the category of the problem. Okay. So I think many organizations use ITIL for in their setting up or the configuration of their service desk. And all the data that the system captures, based on various number of complaints and reports, they can study the all these category of tickets and the kind of complaints that people make. And with this, normally they can know whether a problem is a random problem or a problem is actually has a systematic root cause. Okay, so it is just one-time problem, or is it something which is related to some flawed design? So which means there's weaknesses in the design. So if there's a weakness in the design, then a problem can always be repeated again and again. It will continue to recur until the root cause is resolved. So this can be understand from studying the data from the service desk systems. Okay. So again, these are areas where the service quality can be improved. I'm not sure whether I addressed your question, but I hope it has help to make you understand to some extent. That is why I think if you find in some systems there is something called FAQ. FAQ means frequently asked questions. So which means if let's say one problem keep on recurring, and rather than you address the problem every time someone reports it, you can actually compile this problem and then provide an answer in the form of frequently asked questions, so that they don't have to log a report in the service desk system. They can just go to FAQ and then try to resolve it themselves, because you've provided the guidance of how to resolve the issue in the FAQ. Okay, so this is the the benefit of having things configured using ITIL. Okay. Some problems can have a systematic root cause where you cannot resolve it immediately, but sometimes you need extra budget to resolve it. Okay. But if it's coming from a system that can provide the evidence, then you can bring this issue to the finance department, who can approve the money to resolve the issue. Okay, so again, that is why ITIL is very useful in this.
Okay, thank you, Professor. And I thought that the service quality was talking about like how the vendor should support the user, but it actually like how the system itself can support by emphasize the needs of the user, right?
Yeah, so as we service quality normally is critical in production phase.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like ticketing and chat, right?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are you familiar with the ticket process?
What?
Have you
I'm sorry.
experienced using service desk tickets and things like that?
Yeah, I somehow what is it? Experience in creating ticket system.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Okay, Alhamdulillah, we come to the end. But I just remember, when you say ITIL, somehow I say it, I spell it by reading, the abbreviation, and it gives the bad impression in Indonesia. I just don't recognize this one, because it is become the bad words. It is another issue, in project communication, Professor. So when you say it, I remember the time when I see it this as the not as the ITIL, but as the reading the abbreviation. Similar like when I first came to Malaysia, there are words that in Malaysia it is bad, yeah, but in Indonesia it is good, yeah. So there are problems in communication as well that we need to realize, yeah, and recognize when we deliver it or convey the message, so it do not give the bad impression to the audience. Okay, Professor, thank you so much, yeah. Honestly, yeah, you are my role model, yeah, and hopefully it can give, yeah, the inspiration to all of our students, yeah, like when you give it to me, yeah. Yeah, even though at the end I do not become your supervisi, yeah, yeah, because I see you are really busy at that time, so I do not want to disrupt or disturb your activity. Okay, hopefully give us inspiration, and it's really extraordinary talk, and I guess our student also feel the same thing, and yeah, may Allah give you reward, and hopefully it's benefit to us as well as yourself. Thank you so much, Prof. We really appreciate. It's really honor, and we are really glad to have you here. And inshallah, we will meet again. Yeah, if yeah, there are Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala give us the time as well as opportunity. Okay, for the other participant, don't remember, yeah, we already post the quiz in the chat, yeah, so you can take the quiz, and then it is the requirement, yeah, for you to have certificate, yeah. Nggak ada freelance, ya. Even for the certificate, Prof. Okay, we will end by having doa kafaratul majelis. Subhanakallahumma rabbana wa bihamdi asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the participant as well as for the professor.
Welcome.